The courtroom was silent, so silent that you could hear the scratch of the judge's pen against paper. 17-year-old Malik Reed stood motionless in the defendant's box. His orange jumpsuit hung loose on his lanky frame, his wrists chained like a threat to society. He wasn't crying. He didn't even flinch. But his eyes, those deep brown eyes, stared straight ahead with a storm brewing inside them. The prosecution had painted Malik as a monster, a thief, an armed delinquent. They claimed he had led a store robbery that left a man injured, but there had been no fingerprints, no CCTV footage, just one shaky eyewitness account. The judge, a man known for his cold impartiality, stared down at Malik with steel in his gaze. Yet the gavel came down hard. Malik Reed, I hereby sentence you to life in prison, without the possibility of parole. Gasps, cries, the sound of Malik's mother collapsing behind him. But Malik stood still, frozen, like the world had hit pause. Then he did something no one expected. He calmly reached into his pocket and pulled out a tiny black phone the guards had seen. "Excuse me, Your Honor," Malik said, voice even. "I need to make a phone call." The bailiff lunged forward, but the judge raised a hand. "Let him. It's already done." Malik dialed. 1 ring. 2. "Dad, they just gave me life." There was a long silence on the other end. Then came the voice. "Give the phone to the judge." The judge frowned. "What is this?" "Who's just take the phone," Malik said. The bailiff, now cautious, handed the phone to the judge. He pressed it to his ear. "Who am I speaking to?" the judge barked. Then his face turned white. His hand trembled. "Yes, sir," he said. "Yes. ... Of course, sir." "No, I didn't know." He didn't say. What? The judge looked up at Malik like he was seeing a ghost. Malik folded his arms. "You done? The Attorney General's son?" The judge handed the phone back without another word. Silence again. "I told you he'd come." And then came the whispers. "The U.S. Attorney General." But it was true. Because we didn't want special treatment. We wanted justice. Malik Reed's father was the most powerful legal figure in the country, and nobody knew. Courtroom buzzed like a kicked beehive. I was not made aware of the defendant's parentage. Reporters scrambled for their phones. The prosecutor's mouth fell open. But Malik didn't gloat. He didn't smile. He just turned to his mother, whose shocked face was wet with tears. "Mom, ... That's when the judge finally spoke again. The judge sat in his chambers, sweating bullets, the phone still on his desk. The lack of DNA. It didn't make sense, but he'd let the momentum carry it forward. I, a defense attorney who'd barely said a word during the trial, suddenly stood tall. But Malik wasn't looking at them anymore. He was staring at the jury, the same 12 people who had convicted him. "You still think I'm guilty, don't you?" he asked them, his voice calm but razor-sharp. Even now. One juror, a middle-aged man with gray at his temples, couldn't hold his gaze. 20 minutes later, the courtroom had been cleared. He thought back on the trial. The shaky eyewitness, the cop who found the weapon too quickly, and now the son of the Attorney General. Then came the knock at his chamber door. When he opened it, 4 men in dark suits stepped in. No words, just credentials. "Federal agents. We're reopening the case," one of them said.
"I know."
While the judge panicked and the press tried to wrap their heads around the news, back at the holding facility, Malik sat in a cell silent. His cellmate, an older man named Roy, looked over. "You shook the world, kid." Malik didn't reply. Roy leaned closer. "You got someone on the inside, don't you?" Malik looked up slowly. "Not just someone." Roy grinned, then dropped a folded paper from his waistband. "This came across my hands months ago," he whispered. "They didn't want you to see it. It was a police file, a confession, signed by another suspect in the case, but it had been buried." Malik's eyes narrowed. "This changes everything." The folded paper was more than a confession. It mentioned a security camera above the alley where the incident happened. But in court, the police claimed the footage was corrupted. Malik reread the document, jaw tightening. Roy leaned in. "The system tried to bury you." Malik stood up. "Then I'll bury their lies." Meanwhile, one of the federal agents who'd entered the judge's chamber earlier walked through a dusty evidence room downtown. He handed a tech specialist a USB drive. "Pull the file marked CAM_49. The tape, they said, was corrupted. The tech ran it. What they saw made them freeze. Malik wasn't even there. Judge Keller locked the chamber door and pulled out a drink. His career was over. He knew it. Because now everything was unraveling. He'd trusted the detective, trusted the case. Now, with the Attorney General personally watching, his every decision was under a microscope. He opened his laptop, heart racing, and read the headline, just breaking on a major news site. Life sentence for teen overturned after AG intervention. Judge under scrutiny. His phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. He didn't answer. The knock at his door came seconds later. This time it wasn't agents. Malik's father was tall, clean-shaven, and carried silence like a weapon. He stepped into the judge's chamber without a word. It was the Attorney General himself. Judge Keller stood, hands trembling. I didn't know. I swear to you, the AG cut him off with a glance. This isn't about favoritism, he said. This is about failure. He tossed a folder onto the desk. It contained crime lab memos, witness statements, timestamps, all showing Malik's innocence. You sent an innocent boy to prison. Malik sat across from his father at a private facility, away from the cameras and public eyes. It's not because you were corrupt, but because you were lazy. Judge Keller sat down heavily, eyes darting between the pages. What happens now? The AG's voice dropped to a whisper. That's not up to me. You should have told them who you were, the AG said quietly. I wanted to see what justice looked like when no one knows your name, Malik replied. Now I know. His father sighed. You were raised for better. No, Dad. I was raised to survive. Now I'm going to expose all of them. Malik leaned forward. His father stared at him for a moment. Detective Rollins sat in his unmarked car, cigarette shaking in his hand as he watched the news feed on his cracked phone. Then, ... he smiled. Then let's burn it down together. If this explodes, it takes all of us down. Her name was Keisha, and she'd been 16 when she saw what really happened that night. Malik's face was everywhere. The real shooter was someone else, someone with a badge. And now, his name Rollins was starting to surface. You were confused. He pulled out an old burner phone and dialed. It's me, he whispered. A voice on the other end replied coldly. You said the kid had no one. I didn't know he was connected. He was just another black kid in the system. How was I supposed to know his daddy runs it? You'd better find that missing witness before the feds do. She remembered it vividly. Malik wasn't even there. But a week after giving her original statement, a man came to her school, flashing a badge, and said, That statement you gave? Inside the Justice Department, not everyone was happy that Malik was walking free. She hadn't spoken since. Now, years later, she opened her door to find Roy, Malik's old cellmate, standing there. Keisha, he said. You still scared? She nodded slowly. Roy smiled. Good. That means you're still alive. Then he held out a tiny recorder. Time to tell the truth. She gave her full statement names, times, everything. Her voice was shaky, but her truth was solid. A man in a tailored suit stood at the top of the marble staircase, watching chaos unfold on TV monitors. Deputy Director Langston. You're under arrest for assaulting a federal officer. He'd spent decades building power in silence, moving pieces behind the scenes. Malik's case was a threat not because of who the boy was, but because of what it would uncover. Langston turned to his assistant. If the AG's son keeps digging, we're going to need a permanent solution. You want him silenced? Langston's eyes narrowed. I want him gone. Malik met Keisha in a safe house provided by his father's team. It was the final nail in the coffin. But as Malik left the building that night, a black SUV screeched to a halt beside him. Men in tactical gear jumped out. Hands on your head. What's going on? Malik shouted. One officer shoved him against the vehicle. Malik's father's badge didn't protect him this time. Because this setup came from the inside. This time they didn't take Malik to a juvenile facility. They dumped him in Blackstone Federal, a cold gray fortress known for two things: corruption and silence. His cell was smaller. His guards were crueler. And this time, there were no cameras in the halls. Every inmate that looked at him either nodded in respect or stared with the eyes of someone paid to take him out. He sat on the metal bunk, arms folded, bruised lips swelling, thinking only one thing. They're not afraid of my father. They're afraid of what I know. While Malik sat in Blackstone, his father was doing what he'd sworn never to do: break the law. The Attorney General went off-grid, meeting with a retired hacker from a case he once prosecuted. The man went by one name only, Glyph. Glyph opened a dusty laptop, eyes flicking fast. They buried a file, Glyph said. Codename, Obsidian Protocol. Hidden under a charity audit from 5 years ago. What's in it? Names, payments, fabricated cases, cops, judges, politicians. He paused. And the real reason Malik was framed. The AG swallowed hard. Can you pull it? Glyph smirked. Already did. In Blackstone, Malik was approached by a man named Marcus Book Johnson, a lifer who ran the prison library and had influence nobody talked about. You ain't supposed to be here, kid, Book said. Malik shrugged. Tell that to the fake charges. Book leaned in. Word is someone paid a lot to put you here. You made powerful enemies. Malik frowned. Then why help me? Book tossed a folder onto the table. Because years ago, your dad helped my sister avoid jail time she didn't deserve. I owe him. Inside the folder were logs of unauthorized calls from Deputy Langston's office. To Blackstone, Keisha's recorded statement had already been sent to the press but before it could air. The station's server was mysteriously wiped. Meanwhile, Keisha never arrived home. Her phone went dead. Her aunt called Malik's father in a panic. She was scared. She said someone was following her. The AG moved quickly, activating every contact he had. But the news was grim. Despite Keisha's disappearance, the truth couldn't be stopped. The last CCTV image showed Keisha being pushed into a white van, her mouth covered, her eyes wide in terror. The message was clear. Tell the truth and you vanish. Within hours, anonymous accounts began posting screenshots of files exposing a network of case manipulation. Glyph, the rogue hacker, leaked parts of the Obsidian Protocol to underground journalists. That night at Blackstone, the power cut out. Doors buzzed open. Sirens stayed silent. One name kept coming up. Deputy Director Langston. Another, Detective Rollins. And buried deep in a memo dated 2 years ago was this chilling phrase. Target to be neutralized through judicial railroading. Son of AG presents leverage. The world gasped. They hadn't just framed Malik. They'd used him as bait. Malik knew immediately. This wasn't an accident. A masked inmate slipped into his cell. They're coming for you. Langston's pulling strings from the outside. As Malik crawled through pitch-dark tunnels, Kesha's voice hit the internet. Malik bolted down the hallway. Chaos exploded around him, fights, shouts, gas canisters dropped from vents. But Malik wasn't trying to escape. He was headed to Book's office. Inside, Book had a map of Blackstone's underground tunnels, leftovers from its days as a military base. The man who did wore a badge, and his name was Rollins. Langston watched the explosion of media outrage from his high-rise office, face pale. Time to vanish, Book said, handing him a flashlight and a burner phone. You sure? Malik asked. Book nodded. I don't trust the system, but I trust you. Somehow, despite being missing, her pre-recorded video statement was released by Glyph. In it, she described every detail. The shooter, the cover-up, and the night she was silenced. Malik didn't pull that trigger. The video hit 1 million views in 2 hours, 10 million by dawn. Hashtags exploded. Protesters gathered. The world was watching now. But deep underground, Malik had no idea he'd just become a symbol of truth. He picked up his private phone and spoke one word. Activate. Minutes later, 3 black vans peeled out of a parking garage. Their orders, find Malik. End it quietly. But what Langston didn't know was that his own call had been intercepted. In the back of a van trailing those black SUVs was Malik's father, wearing a wire. He looked into the camera and whispered, "This ends tonight." Malik emerged from the tunnel into an old subway shaft. The moment he stepped out, he froze. His father stood waiting, surrounded by federal agents in tactical gear. Malik blinked. "You found me." His father nodded, jaw clenched. "They were coming to kill you." Malik stepped forward slowly. "Then let's finish this." The AG handed him a flash drive. "This has everything as real testimony, court manipulation records, and audio of Langston giving the kill order." Malik stared at it, then pocketed it. "Let's give it to the world." Langston watched from his penthouse, trembling. Helicopters were circling. He grabbed a suitcase, yanked open a hidden compartment behind a bookshelf passport, money, burner phones. He turned only to find the Attorney General and federal agents in his doorway. Langston hissed, "You're throwing away the system to protect your son?" The AG stepped forward. "No, I'm burning it down to protect every son it tried to destroy." Langston lunged for a hidden weapon in his desk, but a taser dropped him hard. As agents cuffed him, Malik stepped into the room and stared down at the man who tried to erase him. Langston spat blood. "You were never supposed to survive." Malik replied coolly, "Neither were your lies." Back at the courthouse, Judge Keller walked into a packed courtroom, not as a judge this time, but as a witness. He cleared his throat. "I sentenced Malik, not because he was guilty, but because I was told he had to be." He paused, but I failed. I chose comfort over courage, and today I confess to my cowardice. Gasps. Reporters scribbled. The gallery was stunned. Keller looked at Malik in the front row. "I'm sorry, can't undo what I did, but I can help tear down the system that let me do it." Malik nodded slowly, and for the first time in years, he felt seen. The courtroom was silent as Malik stood behind the same defense table, where he had once been wrongly sentenced to life. But this time, he wasn't the defendant. He was the lead witness in the biggest federal corruption trial in decades. Detective Rollins sat handcuffed, sweating.
Oh.
Langston was pale, lifeless. Dozens of officials were named. Some had already flipped, others would fall soon. As Malik spoke, his voice echoed. "This isn't just about me. It's about everyone who was silenced, framed, forgotten. I survived. Others didn't." The judge banged the gavel. "Let the record show Malik is cleared of all charges, effective immediately." Applause broke out. Some wept. Reporters rushed to file breaking news, and Malik walked out of the courtroom a free man. Months later, Malik sat in a quiet classroom, now a law student.
It's not because he wanted revenge on the system, but because he wanted to rebuild it.
His story had sparked global outrage. Protests, reforms, a truth commission. Hundreds of wrongly convicted teens were being re-examined. Some freed. Outside, reporters still camped near his school. Publishers fought for his memoir. Politicians tried to claim his story. She had been rescued weeks later and was now starting a foundation in her name. But Malik ignored them all. Instead, he stared at the old photo on his desk, his mugshot. Beside it, a newer photo, him and Keisha, smiling. He whispered to himself, "They tried to silence me. Instead, they gave me a voice." And in a system built to break him, he became the one who broke it.